Here we are on the front of our Jayco Redhawk. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough or tutorial like you would get with technician on the first day of delivery, giving you a refresher on all the items on here. If you want a deeper dive on these items, or if your items vary from what's in this unit, you can find that in the HAPS Helpful Hacks playlist of the Great American RV YouTube channel. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share with all your friends, support the channel. We're going to start in the front here. We'll go ahead and have that hood pop. Here we can see we have our chassis battery right there, transmission oil, air filter, coolant fluid, all that stuff as you would normally see on any other vehicle on your unit. So as we move down the driver's side, we can see that in our first compartment we have our generator. Our generator, of course, has controls right here on the outside. If we pull that cover off, it's gas generator. We have our gas primer. In order to start it, we want to hold down that prime button. We'll hear the fuel pump kick on, prime that system up. We'll hold that down for a little bit, and then we can hit our on-off button to go ahead and start that system. Have a couple of alert lights right here that might tell you if something is wrong. When we have our 30-amp breaker right there. So we do have breakers on the inside of our unit that would trip beforehand, but if we overload our generator, it's going to trip right here. So if we see all those breakers on the inside are fine, we're still not getting power off of our generator, but the generator is running. We need to come out and check it and see if this breaker is tripped. If it is, we just hit that reset button and that'll reboot the breaker on there. Then we also have our hour meter right here that is going to give us the hours of the generator so we can keep up with maintenance on it. Of course, maintenance is customer maintenance. You need to go ahead and get the oil change, filter, all the regular maintenance that the owner's manual tells you to do. Well, when we do run this, if we start it from the outside, we do need to put that cover back on. It is designed to run appropriately with the cover on. If we leave it off, the airflow in there is going to cause that engine to overheat, so we have to keep that cover on so the airflow runs like it is engineered to do. So right next to the generator compartment, we have our low point drain. That is one of several that we're going to have on our unit. That is for winterization, one of the spots where we're going to drain the water out to prep our unit for winterization. We have more information on that on the HAPS Helpful Hacks website, or it can be found in your owner's manual. Next compartment is storage. We have our axle. We have our outdoor shower with hot and cold on it. We have our city water connection and our black tank flush. We'll talk a little more about our black tank flush when we get to our dump station over there, and our city water connection is where we'll hook our water hose up for city water. We'll talk a little more about that when we get to our valve configuration. Our next compartment is going to have our 30-amp service plug hardwired in here. We can see it plugged into the wall there. That's going to provide you shore power from the campground. We'll also have our outdoor cable hookup. That is where we would hook up for cable at the campground, and of course a 110 outlet in there as well. We'll see we have low point drain right there. We're going to see where those are right in here. So the pipes will lead out to the bottom right there, and we open these up, that water will drain out. Up here we have our valves. Let's take a closer look at that configuration and how everything works. All right, so we have our valve assembly right here. These two valves incorporate with these two valves right here. Now our city fixtures, that is meaning that we are hooked up to that outside city water connection we talked about with a hose from the campsite. We turn that water hose on, we turn the city fixtures, and that's going to run water to all of our faucets and everything on the interior. Our city fill tank, same thing. We have the water hooked up to the city water connection. We're at our house. We want to fill that fresh tank. In order to do that, we're going to go to the 1 and 6 positions up top, and then we turn that water on, and that will begin to fill our tank. We can monitor how much water we have in that tank whenever we get to the inside. Now keep in mind, this does add more weight to your unit. If you don't need it, dump it. We don't want that water to become stagnant. It's also adding, like I said, more weight to our unit. So try to be conservative how much you put in there if you want to. It will make a difference, and we'll show you where that drain for that is here shortly. Our country fill sanitized tank, that is if we want to sanitize our fresh tank, we would go ahead and hook a water hose up to that city water connection, turn to the 1 and 4 position, kick on our water pump, and we put that other end of the water hose in a mixture of bleach and water. We can fill that tank and sanitize that system. Normal flow is going to be, if we want to use the water pump, which would be water from our fill tank that we did, we would go to 3 and 5, kick on the water pump, and that would pull from our fresh tank out to our fixtures to be able to have water if we don't have a city water connection. Last one is sanitize and winterize our lines. We showed you that low point drain outside. We would drain all the water out of our low point system. Same thing, hook a water hose up to our city water connection, run it to a bottle of RV antifreeze, turn it to the positions 2 and 4, kick our water pump on, and that will pull that RV antifreeze into our lines. Now we do have more information for winterization in our owner's manual, as well as a few videos on our HAPS Helpful Hacks. Below that, we have our black tank and our gray tank for dump station. That's where our black tank flush will come in. Let's take a closer look at that now. Here in the rear, we have that dump station down low. We have our hookup where we would hook our water hose up if we have that dump station there at the campsite, hook that 4-inch line up, or if we have to hang on until we hit a dump station, maybe our site doesn't have that, we'd leave these valves closed, then hook it up there. Now we have our gray tank and our black tank. Our gray tank is going to hold our shower and sink water. So if we have that spot there at the campsite, we can leave that valve open all the time, let that water drain out into that sewage. And of course, if we have to wait till we get to a dump station, we leave that valve closed. But that water can just drain out. Our black tank, however, that is our sewage from our toilet. We want to leave that closed. Reason being is we always want water in that system. Otherwise, the solids we put down our toilet are going to dry up and they'll get stuck in our tank. So we want to make sure that valve's closed till we're ready to dump. When we are ready to dump, we pull that handle, let everything dump out. While we're doing that, we hook up to that black tank flush connection, turn that water on, and then it will send water to a jet on the other side of that tank. Start spraying that water on the other side, help pushing any debris or anything that's left in that tank down this way. Once we're satisfied with our flush, we turn off our black tank flush. We come over here, we close this valve, we go to our toilet, put several gallons of fresh, clean water in there, and of course add our chemicals. Now you'll likely still have a little bit of debris in there, and while you're traveling down the road, that water will help knock all that stuff down. You can flush it again if you wish, or leave it in, add some more chemicals. Those chemicals are going to help decay whatever might be left in there. We do have another video, pro tip on black tank flush in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. Go watch it if you want. And lastly, on our driver's side, we have our fuel station where we'll fill up with fuel. That brings us to our back cap where we have our backup camera back here so we can monitor while we're traveling down the road or while we're backing up. We also have our bumper that has caps on the end. We can store our sewer hose in there when we're not using it. And we don't have a factory supply ladder back here, but you still need to gain access to your roof. You use that with an A-frame ladder, whatever you need to get up there. Every 60 to 90 days, you need to check the sealant around all of your vents, your end caps, your trim, all that stuff, as well as the sealant around all of your side trim, your lights, your windows, all of those things, all of the sealant, every 60 to 90 days according to your owner's manual. It is customer maintenance. If you don't maintain this, water will intrude into your unit. Manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of repair, so we want to make sure we stay on top of that regular maintenance. We have tips and tricks on how to do that in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. But whether you keep it under a cover or not, it doesn't matter. You still need to check that sealant because it can still decay, it can still peel, it can still crack open, all those things. And if you see that happen, we clean it up, we reseal over it with the appropriate sealant. Once again, if we don't do that, you're going to get water in there and it's going to damage your unit, and we certainly don't want that. Down below our bumper, we do have a receiver hitch and our 7-way plug there to be able to tow a vehicle behind us or pull a trailer. Here we're on the passenger side. We have our entry door. We open it up. Our steps can come in and out. Of course, we're parked like we would be at a campground. Those steps can just stay out. We'd flip that switch on the inside and turn those steps off. And then when we open and close that door, the steps will stay out. If you want it the other way, just flip that switch on. If you happen to leave them off when you turn your ignition on and crank up your unit, it will override this system and automatically draw them in as a safety. That way, if you happen to forget, they're not going to damage anything. Your entry door does have a shock assist on the bottom that's going to keep it from pulling out. If your awning was out, it would slam against that door otherwise. So that shock assist helps open it and, of course, keep it restrained. Let's talk a little bit more about our 12-volt awning. We can see we have our awning. Our awning is mainly a sunshade. We can leave it out for a little bit of rain. What we don't want to happen is for that rain or water, dew, whatever, AC condensation to compile in the middle of that awning and cause a belly. Maybe it would collapse. What we do is we grab this arm right here, we pull it down, and now our awning is tilted towards the rear. We can tilt it towards the front if we want. We just do the other arm instead of this one, but you only want to do one. That way that water can run off and drain off of this system. When we're ready to roll our awning in, just lift it up and it's good to go. If you're leaving your campsite for an extended period of time, roll that awning in. You see a bad storm coming in, got a windstorm, anything like that, roll it in. It would be an insurance claim if we're not using it properly. We leave it out in that kind of weather. So make sure we're taking care of our awning properly. All right, moving on, next to our entry door, we do have our LP tank. We can see our gauge right here, our on and off for the system. Generally, you're gonna turn it off whenever you store it. All this is for filling at the propane station whenever you get it refilled. Well, up top here, we do have a vent that's over your hood range to be able to ventilate out. We can see a couple of tabs on there. We want to make sure those are open when we turn that hood vent on so that air actually ventilates out. You have your choice to go ahead and close it and latch it to prevent any insects from building any nests in there. We have our furnace and our water heater. Our furnace and water heater both need 12 volts in order to operate. Both of them use propane. Your water heater will also use electric because it is a tanked water heater. We'll go over the operation for both when we get to the inside. Our next compartment right here is going to have an outdoor cable hookup as well as a 110 outlet for outdoor TV. And we are prepped for solar. So if we want to get those panels, we can get the controller installed in here as well. And then of course our last compartment is just more storage. As we enter our unit, we're going to notice a latch on those steps. Open that up and we can see we have our battery system. This is going to be our batteries. They are wet batteries. Now these are wet batteries. We do need to pull the caps off, maintain them, make sure the water level is at the proper height. Also going to have our battery disconnect in here, function by the switch that we'll go over here shortly. And these ones with the red caps right here, these are thermal resettable 12 volt fuses. They will reset on their own after they cool off. If they are overamped, they'll heat up and disconnect that 12 volt circuit. Just got to give it a little bit of time, it'll click and that system will go back to working. As we walk in our entry door to the left, we're going to see our exterior lights, which would be for our awning and outside lights. We do have a little slide switch right there, that is a dimmer switch. We have our awning in and out, once again 12 volt controlled. This is our battery disconnect. So we have a disconnect under those steps right there. That is basically going to disconnect your batteries, your house batteries, from the cabin side of your camper. So when you store it, if you store it unplugged, when I flip that switch, that light will turn off and it'll conserve the battery power on our unit for when we go back out to it. Now if we store our unit plugged in, we want that kicked on, that way our batteries will charge. To the right of that is our power steps. This is that on off button that will control our steps outside and keep them from going in and out if we are stationary. And then we have our RV COLP detector. It has an audible alarm on it that's going to warn you of any CO or LP that might be alarming in our unit. We need to test that alarm before we go out on trips, make sure it's working. We also need to keep track of this expiration date on here so we know when to change it out. And notice that we do have a green light on here letting us know that it is powered up. It is hardwired into our battery system. It is a safety element, so to be hardwired into that. We do have smoke detectors in here too that are powered by a 9 volt battery. We need to test the audible alarm on that and change that 9 volt battery out every so often as well. Just above our kitchen counter, we're going to notice our control panel right here. Once again, we see our generator hours so we can keep track of maintenance. We'll see our start and stop for the generator. To prime the system from in here, we just hold down that stop button and this red light will kick on, and then we go into our start mode holding down start. We have our slide out for our rear bed slide right there. We can extend and retract it here. We're also going to have another switch near the bed, and that is a Schwintech slide. We have more information on our Schwintech slides in a video that we have on the Haps Helpful Hacks portion of our YouTube channel. Then we have our meter panel right here that tells us what our battery, our fresh tank, our black and gray tank levels are, and all we got to do is push that button right there. It's going to tell us our levels. Keep in mind, fresh is that onboard storage, black is our sewage, gray is our shower and sink water, and of course we have our battery level. We have two little lights up here. One is a fault light. We'll address that when we get to our LP for our water heater, and then our other one is our water pump. We kick that water pump on, that light will indicate that it is on. Now that's an on-demand pump. We're going to hear it run when we activate our faucets and things like that. We'll hear it kick on. We only need it on when we're pulling water from that fresh tank. If we have a city water connection, turn that water pump off, leave it off. If you hear that pump running for a good long period of time after you have shut off your faucets and stuff like that, you're sure water is not being used, you want to come over here and shut that pump off, because it may mean either you're empty on your tank or you might have a leak in your system Either way, it can eventually lead to burning up that pump. Of course, we want to shut it off and investigate. To the left of the water pump is our tank heaters. It's a 12-volt mat attached to our tanks. We kick that on in extreme weather, and that'll heat those tanks and prevent them from freezing up. We have our water heater right here. It is a tanked water heater. We have our LP gas and electric option. We always need to make sure water is in the tank before we go ahead and turn these on, otherwise it'll damage the elements. Our LP gas, we flip it on. Of course, make sure our propane is on. If this light right here kicks on after a little bit, that means that system did not light. I want to go ahead and turn it off, cycle it on again, see if that might fix the problem. Might have some air in the lines. Besides that, you flip it and forget it. Our electric, flip it and forget it. As long as you're plugged into a 30 amp, 15, whatever service, then that system will kick on and begin to heat the water in that tank. You can run both of them at the same time if you want. It'll heat the water up a little bit quicker. Here we have our cabin bunkhouse area for sleeping. We can go ahead and flip this up for more headroom, getting in and out of our driver's seat and passenger seat. We have our TV over here. Click that little latch right there and that TV will come off the wall. All your wires and everything are going to lead to this cabinet up here where our antenna booster is. We'll use that antenna boost when we are searching for antenna channels. We have our antenna up there, that King antenna jack. We will go ahead and rotate that to increase our signal, but when we're scanning for the actual channels, we need to make sure the antenna boost is on. That's activated by the little light on there. And once it's on, that antenna boost is on, it will help pick up more channels in the area that you're at. Once you pick up the channels, then you crank that antenna around to increase that signal. When we have park cable, and we have the coax ran from the park to our camper, we want to turn that antenna boost off so it doesn't scramble the channels going to that TV. You're also going to notice another button on there that turns the light off and on, and that is our Wi-Fi boost. If we want to go ahead and upgrade our system, add a Wi-Fi router on here, that is the power for that. We'd have to get a subscription, and it pings off the cell phone towers, and you'll have Wi-Fi with you wherever you go. All right, so we're in our driver's seat set up just like a Ford unit. We do have our left and right over here to control our mirrors. We can go ahead and click it over, move our mirrors around. We have our headlights over here, our windows, lock doors, so on and so forth. We have our controls to be able to control our volume, change channels, change some of the stuff on our display up here to monitor things. We kick it on. We will also have our backup camera right here where the rear view mirror is. We can go ahead and click it on and use it as a rear view mirror while we're traveling, or it will automatically kick on when we put it in reverse. You do have some settings in there to be able to change color and all that stuff if you wish. Down here we do have our radio, very basic radio. We have our radio stations. It is Bluetooth to where we can do phone calls, and we can also Bluetooth it to our phone. That way we can listen to music as well. Have that USB hookup down here to be able to connect with our phone and charge it as well as our USB-C. And then we have that 110 inverter outlet right here for a plug-in that'll be on whenever your engine is running. If we want to go into Bluetooth, we can hit that settings button at the right, turn the knob on the right down one. We have Bluetooth. We click OK. We can add device, click OK again, and then it'll begin to search for that device. Then we'll, once it detects it on your phone, you can go ahead and tap in for forward audio and connect those two options. Our dinette booth can fold down into a bed. We'd go ahead and lift these cushions up out of the way. And to drop that table down, simply lift up on the end right here and pull away from the wall. You're gonna see these teeth at the end, they line up with a hinge right up there up top. With our cushions out of the way, we can go ahead and drop that down into those bumpers and then place our cushions over the top for bedding. To put it back, simply lift it up, push it up against the wall below that bracket, lift it up, and then we can drop those hinges into that track, and we're ready to dine. We have our Coleman Mach AC system right here, that thermostat. We'll take a closer look at that now. So our thermostat, pretty basic. We control our temperature up here up top. We have our cool option. We kick it all the way to the left. With that, we have our fan option. We can either do high or low auto, which will turn that fan off and on whenever that unit is cooling. When the compressor shuts off, it turns off. Or we can leave the fan running all the time on high or low if we just switch it to our on option. The fan option, which is right next to cool, would just circulate air in our unit. It's not going to cool it. It's just going to go ahead and run the fan in there, circulate the air. We have our off option, and then of course our heat. Our heat will kick on that gas furnace, and that furnace will come through our vents down low. The hot air will come through our vents down low in our cabinetry and heat up our entire unit. Once again, all controlled from our temperature up here at the top. So with that said, we do have our AC assembly right here for our rooftop air. On the sides right here, these are our filters. We can clip these two tabs right here, pull them down, clean those filters, so we're not restricting air to our AC and it can work efficiently. The other two vents are our quick dump vents. We open them up and we have air that comes out right here. This can cool off this area right here very quickly versus just closing them up, and now our air circulates through our air ducts up top. Generally, after you have this area cooled down, you'll close those off so it will actually circulate throughout the entire unit. In our kitchen, we have our 110 microwave, our hood range vent. We talked about the vent outside. We need to make sure it's open so that air actually ventilates out. We have our 2-burner Suburban stove with our glass top right there. We want to have it down during travel. We want more counter space. We can have it down as well. We cook, flip it up, make sure our propane is on, of course. We turn that burner right there to light all the way to the right. Then we have our lighter. We will light up that stovetop. Now we can get air in our propane system. That can happen generally when we store it. We turn off our propane. Air will end up getting in our system. And then also if we actually run out of propane, we'll end up having air in our system. So we want to come over to our stovetop, bleed that air out. So best thing to do right after you pull it out of storage or just filled your propane, come over here, kick on that stove, let it run for about 60 seconds, and then you've more than likely got most, if not all, the air out of your system. It's a great idea to do that before you run things like your furnace or your water heater on LP, because those things are likely to go into a fault if we haven't bled the air out of our system first. We have our Furrion fridge and freezer. It's all controlled by a knob right here that goes from off to colder. And then we also have that off-grid option right there in the middle. That's if we're working off of just 12-volt power. We don't have shore power hooked up anywhere. We're reduced to just using our 12-volt power off our batteries. We're trying to conserve that. So we go to that off-grid option that will reduce the workload of that refrigerator. And when we do that, we want to make sure we're not opening and closing our doors so much. Otherwise, our goods aren't going to stay as cold. If you don't want to use off-grid, you just use one of the regular options, but you're going to consume more 12-volt power. Neither in our freezer or our fridge do we have drain lines in here. So whenever we go to store our unit, we need to make sure we defrost everything, wipe it all down, especially in our freezer, get all the water out of there, get any moisture that we have out of here, and then just crack our doors open or leave them open. That way they can air out. If we leave water in here after it defrosts, it's going to come down and it is going to damage all of our wood components around our fridge. Manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of repair. Consider customer maintenance to defrost our fridge properly, so make sure you're doing that. So right behind our dinette booth under this first cover, you'll see all these 12-volt fuses right here. That's for your 12-volt components. Everything's labeled on that cover. If we have any issues with those 12-volt components, we want to come here first, see if any fuses are blown whenever we are trying to troubleshoot. If you're having issues with any 110 components, we're going to go directly to the left of that, and we'll see all of our breakers right here. Those breakers are all for our 110 components. Everything's labeled on that cover right there. All the way to the left, we're going to see that one with a little white push button. That is for our GFCI outlets in our wet locations. If they get wet, it's going to trip that breaker. Or if they're overloaded by too many skillets, blow dryers, coffee makers, so on and so forth, it's going to trip it. Just go reset it and run it again. If it trips automatically right off the back, outlets are wet, or you have too many appliances plugged into those outlets. In our bedroom, of course, we have our slide out. In order to slide it in, we want to flip this mattress up. Once we have it slid out, we can go ahead and flip it down for sleeping. We have a little light switch over there, off on for our bedroom lights, and then we also have another button that we can run this slide out in and out. Once again, a Schwintek slide. We have more information on that in our Haps Helpful Hacks videos. You are going to notice up on the wall there, we do have another mounting location for our TV in the bedroom, as well as our cable outlet right there to be able to hook up for antenna and cable. Our bathroom is going to be pretty basic. We have our hot cold in our shower. That'll lead down to our gray tank. Our sink lead down to our gray tank. We have our shower door right there that is retractable. Of course, we have our toilet. Toilet's going to lead down to our black tank, right? To operate our toilet, we have a foot pedal right there on the front. We hit that foot pedal and it'll flush down the drain. So only a few things we're putting in our toilet as far as sewage is concerned. Number one and number two. Liquids for number one, solids for number two. If we're putting liquids down that drain, hit that pedal, flush it down. If we're doing solids, we need to make sure we fill this bowl about half to 3/4 of the way with water. We do that by barely pushing down on that pedal. Water will still start to come out. The valve at the bottom will stay closed, and we can fill that bowl up. Once you have it to the appropriate amount, flush it down the drain, send it on its way. We do that to make sure there's enough water in there to get those solids down to our black tank. We're also going to put RV toilet paper only in that system. That way it decays properly, and our RV tank chemicals as well for our black tank help keep it smelling nice, as well as help all that stuff decay. We want to make sure we don't put anything else in that system because it can clog it up. Other thing we have in our bathroom, operational by a little switch right here, is our vent fan. We want to go ahead when we take a shower, we want to ventilate that steamy air or anything like that out so we can reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.